And then when you need the breakout rooms, I can give the host back to you. Do you think it's okay?
Yep, no problem.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Sorry, I'm sorry to disrupt. Yeah, so please go ahead.
Okay, so I guess we've just started recording this session now. So I'll just go back. So we've got the name of the session, recreating a curriculum for an online pre-sessional. And I won't repeat myself, but these are the areas that we're going to cover. Okay, so firstly, my experience of pre-sessionals has been quite varied. On the left are my lovely students from my 2018 summer, which was in Newcastle University. On the right is my experience of teaching in an XJTLU pre-sessional, which was last summer. So pre-sessionals can look quite different in different circumstances. So can we share some of your pre-sessional experiences first? So host, please can I initiate a poll?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, host.
Okay.
Okay.
So hopefully you can see this poll. Can you answer the poll? Okay, I think, I don't know how many people are here, but no, still coming in. Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. End polling. Hopefully if I click end polling, we can all see the results. That's quite interesting. So share the result. Oh yeah, share the results. Well done.
Right. Can you all see the results on your screen? Yes.
I will. Hopefully.
Maybe during the chat. It's just.
So yeah, well, we can summarize. Most of you, vast majority, in fact, have only taught on 0 or 1 pre-sessionals before. Maybe if it's 0, you might be thinking about whether you want to throw your hat into the ring for a pre-sessional here next summer. If you have taught on 1, perhaps for many of you it is an XJTLU pre-sessional. So what's really interesting though is that only 1, 2, 3, 4 people here, 5, 6, including Qing and I, have taught in pre-sessionals, I guess, in more places than just XJTLU. So that's quite a narrow range of different pre-sessionals in different places. So it'll be interesting to know how that relates to what factors you think we should be considering for different pre-sessionals. Stop sharing the results. Okay, so one more poll, which I'm going to launch now. Five seconds. Okay, so yeah, similar to the last poll, we've just got a few old lags here, and most of you have perhaps done an XJTLU pre-sessional or are thinking of doing one. I guess that's a reasonable summary. Okay, so perhaps we should stop showing the results first. Thanks, Jane. And have a look at what we mean by a pre-sessional. Okay, so a couple of quotes giving a definition, which I won't read to you. I've just highlighted some of what I think are the key features. So it's a course that's held before the student's main course of academic study. So it's a form of preparatory pathway bridging course for students who already know what academic program they plan to study. And usually they have a conditional offer from the university at which they're doing the pre-sessional to study that academic course there. They're usually held during the summer and traditionally between 4 to 12 weeks, although increasingly there are longer courses now. Most universities I'm aware of have started to offer up to 20-week courses, and some of these are held during the academic year rather than just in the summer. And also this general specific element seems to be the main source of debate around what pre-sessionals should be like, in terms of how much they focus on general academic English or how much specificity there should be in terms of the destination courses that the students are going on to, which might be in terms of the grouping of the students, might be in terms of the content of the assessments, or might be in terms of the content of the lessons themselves. So I think that's quite a useful definition. And to put it into more of an international, maybe transnational perspective, there's another definition from Ken Highland. And I think this one is relevant because it points out that a pre-sessional can either be in the student's home country as well as in an overseas country, as we are party to ourselves working in XJTLU. And also that focus on students' immediate needs. This is developing the particular academic communication skills that are required for entry. So this is this bridging idea that we are reaching the level that the academic departments deem as being necessary for students to start their courses. So very briefly, pre-sessionals have developed since around the early 1970s, when 4 universities in the UK looked to formalize their English language support in a way that had perhaps been more ad hoc up to that point. And then over the subsequent 20 years, these were formalized further. More universities started getting involved until the early 1990s, when British Council accreditation came in, which is pretty much a prerequisite for any university's pre-sessional course now. And then the last 20 to 30 years since then, of course, have seen a huge rise in international student numbers studying in UK universities, and pre-sessional courses have been a huge factor in making that possible, because of course it increases the pool of potential international students that universities have to choose from, because they're able to make conditional offers to students who don't meet the English language requirements that are demanded. And in the last couple of decades, this growth in the market of pre-sessional courses has continued in a couple of ways. Notably, what we'll be familiar with, or many of us will be familiar with, a move towards EMI universities in other countries, which might be kind of universities having offshore PSEs for students who then plan to come and study in the UK on their completion, or more transnational models where students are going to go on and complete their academic course in the same country as well. And also the introduction of external education providers. So York University, where Qing used to teach, have sold their PSE to Kaplan. and I worked for Into at Newcastle University. So these are education providers that kind of specialize in the marketing of their courses and in the international recruitment of students. So again, pushing that real marketization of pre-sessionals. Okay. So what would the ideal pre-sessional look like? So Qing and I are just briefly going to mention our favorites. I've taught at 4 different universities on pre-sessionals, and my favorite was at Durham University for several reasons. All of my students were postgraduates, whereas I've taught on other pre-sessionals where postgraduates and undergraduates are mixed, and therefore it's more difficult to cater to their needs. Class sizes were all 14 or fewer, which when I started teaching on pre-sessionals about 15 years ago was quite normal, but over that time they'd been moving up gradually towards at least 20 students per class. So I was glad that a university was still offering small classes where you could focus on students' individual needs. Maybe against the trend of many pre-sessionals, Durham University still had mixed discipline grouping. Students were grouped by their proficiency level upon entry, but I like the way that students were able to approach topics from maybe different perspectives depending on their academic backgrounds, and also not having to pretend to be an expert in any particular academic discipline that I'm not in the classroom, although some of their assessment topics did cater to student-specific disciplines. I also like the focus on teacher development. For one thing, there was a week-long teacher induction, which made clear the syllabus, the materials, the assessments, the expectations. Just jumping ahead slightly, there was a very focused program of teacher development. At this time, I was working towards fellowship with BALIP, and there were accredited observers working with the university, and they made that the focus of their development. So it was quite clear when teachers decided to work at this PSE what they wanted to be, the path that they wanted to be following in terms of their own development. So everyone was on the same page, and that was the focus of weekly development sessions. The materials were really good. They were all in-house created and they're printed in one book that was given to all students and teachers. So we weren't messing around with like different published materials for different strands of the course. And also there was a really varied program of social activities. Durham University is a bit different in this respect because similar to somewhere like Oxford or Cambridge, it's a collegiate system, and the social program and the pastoral support and the accommodation was organised by the college that the students would be a member of. And this helped the students to familiarise themselves with that university system, build rapport amongst each other, and get used to the academic and the general culture that they would be studying in and living in for the next year. So I thought because of those factors, it worked very well.
And this slide is my experience of working at University of York. So you can see the features here. Some of them are very similar to what Sam had in University of Durham. Here, I just want to highlight a few things that I really liked about working at York. One thing is that the students, they were grouped by their disciplines. So for example, the picture here, it's this is a group of music students. So although the materials we had are not really, many of them are still very general, then the teachers ourselves, we could work on trying to give some discipline-specific input if we decide to do so. So for example, for this class of students, we sometimes give them some input on vocabulary related to music, which we think would be helpful for them later on in their study. Okay, we also had induction. One thing I liked in particular is we also had training on how to use the interactive whiteboard, because that's the only thing we could use in those classrooms. Like in this picture, you can see there's no normal whiteboard, so we could only use the interactive whiteboard. So it's really important that we know how to use this tool, otherwise teaching would be impossible. So I think being familiar with the facilities there in teaching is also a very important point in induction. We have weekly meetings. They are within our cluster. So I prefer smaller meetings because then we can talk about our particular students, the music students we had, and then I think that would be more related to our own context, and we could do more discussion about this group of students in particular. We use the mixture of in-house materials and materials from textbooks, like the Bailey textbook and Oxford EAP. These ones are more intended for students for their self-study. The other thing I liked about working at York is our use of games in our teaching. So our head teacher at that time, she assigned some games to us. So we, like when we're teaching paragraph structure, we didn't just show them, okay, here's the structure. We also give them some cards. So we sometimes even laminated the cards so that they can do some card matching. They could put what's the topic sentence here in this paragraph. They put it the first and the next sentence and so on and so forth. So I think using games was really a good strategy in teaching the boring stuff such as academic writing skills. Yeah. These are all the things I really liked about working at York.
Okay, but rather than just focusing on these two universities, I thought we'd better think about some of the factors that are considered more widely. So I just did a quick study of going to the websites and the PSE pages of several different universities, both in the UK and also in China. And I made a word cloud of the most frequently mentioned words on their PSE pages. So this might give you a brief overview of what things are being considered. And I've highlighted some of the main ones. So in terms of the key features of the course, as I mentioned, PSEs are focusing on students' specific needs in a short, intensive time that need to be developed, improved, learned in order to prepare to move on to their degree program. So that's probably not surprising. And that degree program might be undergraduate, might be postgraduate. Right, in terms of what is taught, hopefully it's going to be academic and a mixture of language and skills. It'd be a bit surprising that there seems to be more reference, slightly more reference to language than skills. And of course, all 4 skills here are mentioned. And also consideration of the assessment. And also this idea of different purposes. There isn't a great deal mentioned on the PSE pages of websites directed at students in terms of actually the specificity of language and skills that are taught, but maybe that's something that needs to be considered more by the teachers and course directors. And then in terms of, well, more recently, there's more focus on the modes of delivery. Is it going to be on campus, face-to-face, or very frequently mentioned word this time, is it going to be online? And bottom right, a word that I had never heard teaching PSE in anywhere else. What is the impact of COVID now? Okay, so we're going to discuss in breakout rooms what you think are the main considerations when we're designing an ideal pre-sessional, just imagining if there were no constraints at all. If you want to consider any of these factors, you might want to take a quick screenshot, because I'm going to click away from it in a moment. Okay, and now we're going to put you in smaller breakout rooms just to have a chat about what you think the ideal pre-sessional curriculum would look like for you. Would it be similar to mine in Durham? Would it be similar to Qing's York experience? Have you already had the ideal PSE experience here in XJTLU? Let's see. I'm stalling for time while I work out how to make breakout rooms. How many breakout rooms do we need? Should we have 5 or 6 participants per room? 4 or 5 participants. Should we do that? Okay, you should now be invited to join a breakout room. Open all rooms. All participants have been invited to join breakout rooms. This is promising. There's some chatting going on. Oh, it's all about the finish the presentation. Please make me the host again. Can we listen to any of this?
Yeah, you can join.
Unmute. Okay, hello, is everyone back in the main room again?
Yes.
Okay.
I can't speak for everyone, but I am.
That's good enough for me. Okay, so now we are going to try and direct you to a Padlet, which will look something like this. Well, hopefully it will look exactly like this. And I want you to write your ideas that you've been discussing in the Padlet, with posts in the Padlet. You could do this by clicking this little pink pencil in the bottom right, or you can just double click anywhere on the Padlet. So if you could click near to where Qing and I have already made some posts, and if, for example, David thinks that an important part of pre-sessional is free cake for everyone. I don't know. You can just double click and put it there. Okay. So I will, it should just be a case of copying this. Where's the meeting? Copying this link into the chat, and then can you click on the link?
No, you're clicking. No, you need to click.
No. Everyone in meeting. Okay. And then could someone just pipe up and tell me if you're in the Padlet successfully?
Google Chrome seems to work fine for this Padlet. Okay.
I would have tried.
Yeah, I've got into it. It's working.
Great. Thanks for letting us know. Okay, so say 3 or 4 minutes to bash out your best ideas. I need to refresh. These are lots of fantastic ideas. Thank you very much. Very neatly organized as well. If anyone has any last minute ideas, then this is the last minute. Okay, thank you very much. Now, before we recategorize these ideas or categorize these ideas, we're going to think about the experience of moving a pre-sessional online, which was what we had to do last summer. Jane?
Okay, so obviously you have a lot of idea about what an ideal curriculum would look like, but as we all know, in 2020 we had to move it online because of the pandemic. Yeah. Okay. So here's some background of in last summer what we did according to the situation. So first, there's some demographics. Can you just click? Okay, right. So we had this amount, this number of students and teachers. We have both the 5-week PSE and the 8-week PSE. All right. So each class was quite small. They were grouped by their subject cluster. Right. Oh, okay. Right. Joy just said for 2021 it has to be online again. Right. So anyway, last summer.
We don't need the last part of the presentation.
Okay. So yeah. Now some other background is at that time we had some rich experience of teaching online because we have taught it online during semester 2. So we gained some experience in like how to use the platforms online, how to use the functions online. We had the materials ready, but they were from previous years, and these were intended for in-class teaching. So in 2020, we had to move everything online to adapt the curriculum. Okay. We used BBBs for synchronous sessions, and we also had other ICE functions available for asynchronous tasks, such as pre-recorded lectures, quizzes, forums. Okay, so that's some background of what we had at that time. Okay, so
yeah, and if people have joined more recently, ICE is the previous name of Learning Mal. Okay, so let's go back to our Padlet for anyone who's able to do so. And you should be able to move those posts into the categories below, the purple categories. So this is imagining that our ideal curriculum needs to be taught online. What would we be able to keep the same? What would we still be able to do the same as in our ideal pre-sessional? What could we do, but we would have to modify the way we do it in some way? And what aspects do you think you simply can't do with an online mode of delivery? So if we all go back to the Padlet, I might think, for example, integrated in-house materials, assessing all learning outcomes in the syllabus. We can equally do that online as we would in class. But maybe if we look at this one, the varied program of social activities to build rapport and get used to our new living environment, maybe we just think we can't do that in an online environment. Okay, you can move your own posts, and hopefully you should be able to move other people's posts as well if you feel strongly about them. Okay, so can you now try to organize them into these 3 categories? And we'll try to also put you in a breakout room at the same time so you can chat in a smaller group about what comments you're moving and why you are moving them. We'll see if this works. On my side. Oh, let's just no, still not small groups. I might move some of these as well. I think we could do that in a modified form. Group by clusters. It isn't affected. I need to do a refresh. Why are people not moving them? And lots of people haven't joined the rooms. Maybe this simultaneous breakout room Padlet move-in is too much. It's cognitive overload, maybe. Okay, I can show everyone my coffee and walnut cake as the big reveal.
Wow. So you bake that yourself?
Yeah.
Wow.
All right, should we close the breakout rooms?
So you can have a listen out there.
How do we add the breakout rooms? How do we get in again? Come on, Sam.
We're in one of the breakout. Oh, that's the main room. Okay. Oh yeah. That's fine. They will see. We will kind of need to wrap up.
This one. What did we do? This.
Right, just some example. Just briefly.
Yeah. Okay, so I think now people are back in the main rooms. We didn't have a chance to pop into the breakout rooms, but hopefully people were discussing how your idea of an ideal pre-sessional could be delivered online. So some ways that we approached these challenges last summer.
I'll just show you some examples of what we did last summer, which we thought were good practices in coping with the challenges of moving online. So first thing, very important, I think, is the induction that we had in 2020. So we had the students watch videos on how they're expected to behave in online sessions. For example, they need to open the webcam and use the microphone to speak. So I think these videos are very important because otherwise students would just be silent throughout the whole courses. So induction, letting students know what they need to do is very important, and also telling them how to use that with the ICE functions, how to do that in the BBB platform. That's quite important. So induction, yes. And we used the blended learning approach. We had 4 hours of synchronous sessions each day, plus some other recorded lectures and TED Talks for homework. So this is because we know that students are not likely to have enough attention for very long hours of synchronous sessions if they're online. So the hours for online sessions are kind of reduced, but we put more materials in the homework. So according to that change, we also decided to have more interactive activities during the synchronous sessions and less teaching in synchronous sessions. So this is because we want to save the time for letting students interact with each other, because that's the only chance they can have during synchronous sessions. For other teaching bits or knowledge skills focused, like a list of tips, they can do that as self-study after the synchronous sessions. Okay. For these 2 parts, we have for tutorials and peer review process, we think that this is a very important part of students' learning, because this is where they get feedback from other students and the teachers. So of course, we will do this in offline, in on-site teaching, but in online teaching, we also found a way of moving this into the BBB rooms. For example, students could do peer review by filling some peer review forms first, and then exchange the feedback in breakout rooms. And finally, writing up the peer review report again in forums. Teachers could also do the tutorial with students just in the BBB rooms, and they're also advised to turn on their webcam to show each other's faces, just like in a face-to-face tutorial. Okay. We had more communication because some of the teachers at that time, they were abroad, so we had all these channels of communication, like weekly meetings, staff-student liaison meetings, WeChat groups, to ensure that there's continuous communication between teachers and teachers and teachers to students. Yes.
Okay, so they are some of what we thought were successful practice in last summer's pre-sessional. And if people check the chat, then we've had a big reveal from our postgraduate manager Joy in terms of future pre-sessionals. And my big reveal is that among the many delicious cakes that are available, one of them is my walnut and coffee cake. But in order to get a piece of this, I've decided that this presentation comes with some homework that you need to complete. So if you are able to access the Padlet, then the next activity we want people to do is considering if we move a pre-sessional back online, which, as Joy has mentioned, back on site, sorry, I don't know what I'm talking about now, is likely to be in 2022. That sounds so far in the future.
So we can start to think about it.
Yeah, start to think about everything. So I will leave this Padlet open for a while before I save it. So if you are minded to do so, you might go back inside and move around these little boxes again, these posts again, into our green categories, which are the new on-site or possibly blended pre-sessional. Okay, so for example, Qing mentioned the system of peer review and tutorials, and I actually think that works quite well online. Students can show each other their tutorial feedback for the peer review feedback forms, and they can highlight parts of each other's essay on the screen. So I might be minded to keep that online in a future curriculum design. I don't know where that is in these posts, but I would put that here, keep online. Okay. Okay, so we'd better bring this to an end because it is 12 o'clock. No, it isn't, it's 1 o'clock. I don't know what time it is, I don't know what year it is. Thank you very much, everybody. And oh yeah, and we will share with people the completed Padlet along with the recording of this at the end, and the PPT, because there's maybe some useful references as well for people to get more background and ideas about pre-sessionals. Okay, thank you very much. As I say, thank you, and goodbye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay,
Session,
okay, we need to make, okay, this is the, can you have a post-amble? You have a preamble. What's the opposite of a preamble? A post-amble. Yeah, I'm trying to make you the host. Okay, there we are, there we are, there we are. Make the host. Okay, it's out of my hands. Goodbye.
Bye.